The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming out on this chilly January evening to join us here at FRACC's new ignition space. And my name is Ashley Okino. I am the Executive Director of the Fall River Arts and Culture Coalition, aka FRACC. And so I'm very thrilled to welcome you, and I do have a few people, if they would like to say hello, I'd love to give them the opportunity, like Rep. Viola. I would love to give you the mic for a second if you just want to say hi, and if not, I see the look in your eye. It is unheard of, but you can have it for a little while.
I think people can hear me. Can you hear me from here?
They would need to mic, they need to take you.
Oh, FRC media is here.
You can hear me? No? All right.
Come on around, just watch out for the cord.
I move and I talk. Wow, what a nice turnout tonight, Ashley and Patty and everyone. What a great, great coming together. I'm really proud tonight that we have with us, and they were very kind to come down to learn more about the collaborative arts and culture that goes, programming, collaborations that are going on in this community to lift us up, to bring this exceptional, more exceptional quality of life to our community that each of you are doing. It's not someone, it's everyone. And so today, I'm very proud, people I've worked with for the last many years, to have Michael Bobbitt, the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Cultural Council with us. Michael, welcome. He's joined by his colleague, Beth Ann Steiner, who they kind of are a tag team. I've tag teamed them, and they've me, and so it's they operate a lot of funding opportunity that many of you have taken advantage of. Keep an eye on their website. They are, you know, a multi-million-dollar organization funded by the legislature to ensure, and they do it, that the dollars go out everywhere to everyone and inclusive to ensure the arts and culture blooms, because arts and culture is economic development. I'm also pleased to introduce today Kate Fox. Kate Fox is the new Executive Director of a different organization, the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism. Kate, welcome. Kate readily accepted our invitation to come down, and I'm really, really proud. Many of you know I served as Chair of Arts, Culture, and Tourism for a session, and then I guess I did such a great job, the speaker asked me to do something different. So, but we really had an exciting time because we had the pandemic, we had increased funding, we had such a lot to do, and certainly my heart was, of course, statewide, but in particular here. And we were able to see some energy and more effort and dollars come down here. And even though I'm not on that committee any longer, myself, along with my colleagues, I see Skylar's here for Rep. Schmid. Where's Skylar? Yep, for Rep. Schmid. And I see Maureen is here for Senator Rodrigues. And neither of them, unless they show up, you know, I know they weren't able to make it, but their energy and efforts are collaborative. We collaborate so that you can as well. Lastly, I wanted to first thank all the artists and organizations that support artists. Who else did I, oh, very important, Richleen, where are you? Right here. Richleen is sitting over there. Wave again, Richleen. Richleen is with Mass Creative, another statewide organization that is an advocacy arm for all of you. Because when they see that you need help, and they acknowledge the incredible impact of arts and culture on our economy, they are there to be your voice in Boston and really, really amplify the need and get us moving so that we can therefore fund what you need. So thanks to South Coast Chamber. I see Sandy Fraze here, who served on the MCC as a director for many years. Sandy, thanks for your commitment to arts and culture. And of course, now Kathy Castro sits on that board. And again, I may be taking away all your introductions, but I just didn't want to miss that. Another great colleague, always showing up, is our Congressman Jake Auchincloss. And today, he's represented by his Massachusetts Chief of Staff here, Dana. Dana is just an incredible go-to. She's just, their office is the best I've ever seen. And of course, Katerina from Fall River is here, and she sits in that office as well. So we are very well represented by a congressman. So like you in the arts and culture, what you're doing here, you know, to collaborate on this kind of a space and to bring this to the community, we in our legislative role collaborate to do the same thing, so to bring it to you. So I'm really proud of the team that we have. I'm not going to say anything about the mayor because he's going to come up here and he's a great collaborator as well. And anyway, without further ado, I am going to turn the mic back to Ashley and thank you very much.
you.
The hot chocolate.
Yes.
Who is it? Choco
Choco
Latte?
Latte
Who's
Cafe.
chocolate? I don't know who they are, but that was great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you Chocolate Cafe for sponsoring the delicious Festipot chocolate bar that I mentioned, and again, the sprinkles. So I did want to invite Mayor Coogan, if you would like to come up and just say hello to everyone. I know he does. And then afterwards, I'd love to invite you, Kate and Michael as well, to come up and say a few words. Just watch out for the cord as you step around the corner.
I don't need this really. I just want to thank FRACC for having us tonight. There's a great group of people here that are all going to get to hear different ideas and proposals to help Fall River. It's these kind of incubators like this, and with Brittany and Harry out front, and FRACC in the back, and I don't know if that sounds right. I'm sorry. It was funny because I went down to Viva last week, and I went to the little art studio next door with the kids working, and it was a tremendous amount of energy down there. And if we can keep getting these little pockets going in Fall River, we'll have a better city for it, and we'll all do better. And I appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and let's hear the presentation. It's going to be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is our dress rehearsal. We're going to be doing this again at the North of Boston Tourism Summit next Friday. So if you find yourself in Peabody, stop on by the Marriott.
Did you bring slides? I didn't bring slides.
I didn't bring slides.
Okay, great.
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much to Representative Viola for the invitation and for all of you for opening your doors to invite tourism in. My name's Kate Fox. I'm the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism. I've been on the job for 7 months. And so I'm still calling myself new, and it's a really exciting time at MOTT. I'm happy to talk about what our strategic plan and vision is and where we're going with tourism, but I can summarize it by saying that it is truly a privilege to be working under the Healy Driscoll administration in the realm of tourism. They are investing in the industry. They understand the importance of it, and from where I stand, tourism doesn't have a product without the arts and culture. The creative economy is such an important piece to the tourism product. We want to put heads in beds, and we want to fill restaurants, and we want people to shop, but they're only going to come if there's something to do, and what there is to do is going to be the arts and culture. So congratulations on this beautiful new space. I look forward to hearing more tonight, and I have a super easy email address. It's kate.fox@mass.gov. And if you want to learn more about how to work with MOTT, I'd be happy to connect with anybody.
Thanks, Kate. And I was so happy that the governor mentioned the word tourism in her State of the Commonwealth address last night. And if you haven't read the Economic Development Plan, I encourage you to do so. There's quite a bit of ink in that document about tourism. So now is the time for us to strike, right, and ask for big things. Thank you, Rep. Filer, for inviting me here. And Rep. Filer was very modest, but that $61 million that we got for pandemic relief goes large in part to the work that Rep. Filer did behind the scenes. So thank you so much for that. Nice to meet you, Mr. Mayor, and good to see other representatives from our congressional offices and our other offices in the legislature. Mass Cultural Council is an independent state agency funded by you all because you pay your taxes. Thank you. And the legislature helps us to get that money to us and then out to you all. We have numerous grant programs, and there are some postcards on the table if you want to know about them. Most of the grant programs have closed for the year, but they start opening up again. Actually, the festivals and projects grant opens up super soon in March, and then many of the other grants open up in the fall. So get on our social media, join our e-blast, so you can get information about that. We also started curating other opportunities from outside of the agency that come across our desk, and the staff is going out finding other opportunities, grants, professional development, requests for proposals. And so check those out because there's other ways to get money for the work that you're doing. Our big strategic initiative is really building relationships across other sectors and all across the Commonwealth in government. So we're working hard we've met with 5 or 6 secretariats. The relationship we're building is deepening because we're being more intentional about finding out where we know arts and culture is everywhere and everyone can benefit from it. So now we're trying to think more intentionally about how to build relationships with transportation, with health, with housing, with economic development, with workforce development. So I am literally on the street meeting with everyone that I can. Everyone's very excited. Sometimes they're like, why are you here? And I say, well, artists use transportation. And then they go, oh yeah, right. So, so we have a lot of work to do to build and deepen those relationships. But I think if we do it well, we'll see a lot more maybe contracts and fees for services coming out of those different departments for the cultural sector. We just helped the Department of, what is it called? Department of Youth Services build out a request for proposals because we finally convinced them that arts can help with the recidivism issue they have. And so several arts organizations are going to get great government contracts. So that's kind of the example that we're thinking about. I'm so proud of you and this space. Ashley, thanks for having us here. I am also really excited to see you all coming together to collaborate with your leaders and talk about how arts and culture can be enlivened. And I want to see that happen more. And please invite me back. Great. Thank you all so much. So as you know, we go into budgeting season now, right? The governor's budget will come out next week, and we're hoping for more. We've made an ask for more already. And so one of the things that we like to do when this happens is we start pushing the button on advocacy. And so this year, Mass Creative, our partners, our advocacy partners are launching sort of an advocacy week. There are going to be advocacy events happening all across the state, but on the 24th at the State House, we want to show up by the thousands to really sort of support arts and culture. There'll be performances all day, but we're going to hear from a lot of our leaders. We are meeting tomorrow to see if we can get the governor and the lieutenant governor to come and show up. But come that day, it's a chance for you to show our numbers, but also to sort of go throughout the State House and talk to your legislators if you haven't had a chance to meet them. So get on Mass Creative's site. You should be a member of Mass Creative if you're not a member, but get on the site, get on their social media so you can hear information about it, register for it, and send the word out because we want to show up with lots of numbers for Arts Advocacy Day. All right? Great.
I don't get an introduction, but that's okay. So I will introduce myself, though. Hi, everybody. I'm the executive director of Viva Fall River. My name is Patty Rigo, and I am thrilled to see everybody here today. So just to start off, Viva Fall River has always been more than just a phrase. It started out as a movement, which was to rally, so to speak, rally the troops to come together and to collaborate for the longevity and the prosperity of the city of Fall River. From the very beginning, our aim has been to showcase the businesses, the culture, the events in the city, focusing on economic development, community initiatives, and of course, arts and culture. Viva Fall River serves as a reminder that this city is not just a place on a map, but it's a living, breathing entity with a very unique identity. A lot of our work has been centered on strengthening a sense of community pride. I think that's where we started. But then also conveying to others outside the city how unique and diverse our community and our offerings are. And so our job at Viva Fall River is to draw on those existing assets that are all around us to elevate the profile of the city as a premier South Coast destination. The overarching goal is always to support economic development, but those efforts are leveraging the potential of the creative economy and cultural tourism primarily, positioning the city as authentic, accessible, culturally unique, welcoming, and on the verge of an arts and culture renaissance. In September of 2022, Viva Fall River entered into a 2-year contract with the city of Fall River to implement a strategic tourism plan leveraging federal ARPA funds. We are now about halfway into year 2 of that contract. So, but taking it back to September of 2022, when we began, one of the first steps that we took was developing baseline tourism data by which we could begin to measure not only our efforts, but the collective efforts of the city in attracting new visitors and increasing the economic impact of visitation spending. So the first thing I did was form a tourism advisory committee because you definitely need support, and just because it's my idea doesn't mean that it's a great idea. So the tourism advisory committee is made up from leaders from the community, specifically those who are engaged in economic development and or key destination management. And our first task as a collective committee was to vet proposals for a company to conduct baseline research that could inform targeted strategies, tactics, and advertising campaigns. So I'm not going to get it. I mean, this research study itself is like 50 pages, so I'm just going to give you a little overview. But developing baselines of visitor-influenced economic activity is absolutely crucial for tracking the performance of tourism over time. So we, after a selective search, we partnered with the UMass Dartmouth Charlton College of Business and their associates to conduct a 2-part study that was officially completed in September of this past year. The 3 primary tasks were first to assess market conditions and consumer spending in tourism-related industries, comparing Fall River to its surrounding communities. The second task was to develop visitor profiles and market segments. I mean, we definitely had some assumptions, but assumptions don't look great on grant proposals, so I needed data. So we needed to analyze visitor data from major attractions, so partners in the city, and conduct interviews with key informants, so conducting interviews with people who came to events in the summer of 2023. And the last task was to establish baselines of visitor-influenced economic activity. Where are people spending their money? And also get a sense of rooms and meals taxes so that we could track the growth of visitor spending over time. So part 1, as I mentioned, focused on the quantitative data. We utilized Claritas identity graph, which provides insights into consumer data, particularly how much they spend and on what. And then we also analyzed some of the visitor data that we got from a couple of key locations in the city, some of our top destinations. So Battleship Cove, the Narrows Center for the Arts, and the Lizzie Borden House. Part 2 was, the second part was done in the summer, as I mentioned, and those were qualitative data that consisted of 4 intercept surveys that happened at major events, and that was conducted by a team from UMass Dartmouth. Both reports can be found on the city's website, but some key takeaways, like where visitors are coming from. And it's not, we definitely have people who visit certain attractions from much further away than 30 or 60 minutes, but a majority of the visitors who come here are from a 30 or 60-minute drive time. So in the short term, those represent a more attainable and cost-effective short-term strategy for us to get more visitors. So not only, visitors from the surrounding area, but even as, Boston's within that 50 miles, as is Western Massachusetts. Fall River is specifically in such a good geographic location to be what we call, Southeastern Massachusetts Visitors Bureau calls hub and spoke. So we are next to a lot of hubs. So that would be Providence, Providence, Newport, yes, even New Bedford, and casting the net a little wider, Plymouth, Boston, and the Cape. We can capitalize on the proximity to those and target visitors who are visiting those destinations based on, we have a lot of similar assets, so how do we get those visitors to spend a little bit of their trip here with us and a lot of their money with us? So, we're near a lot of hubs, so we can be a very attractive spoke, and that's what I'm trying to do. And then based on some of that data, we came away with some short-term strategies, which I've listed here. Definitely leveraging the catalyst attractions. How do we cross-market with each other? I mean, there are definitely 3 or 4 key locations that people are going to, but that doesn't mean that there aren't associated locations that couldn't add to somebody. So instead of that person just going to that place and then leaving, how do we get them to stay and go to different locations and also to visit restaurants that are nearby? So how do we promote cross-marketing and collaboration? Encouraging repeat visitation is huge. We want people to fall in love with Fall River and keep coming back. Eliminating seasonality. This is something that's going to take longer than just the couple of years that I've been doing this, but obviously, like a lot of places in New England, you've got the key season, spring and summer, and these days with the way our weather's going, that season's getting even smaller. But how do we, work on some of the other things and it doesn't have to be just based on weather, like we're very lucky here to have an amazing culinary scene. So how do we continue to promote tourism all year round so that we can bank on that, so that we're not just putting it all into our summer season and then like last year it was kind of a washout and that, that can really sink you. As I just mentioned, focusing on culinary tourism, one of our strongest assets. I think it's something that a lot of us take for granted. Like, we know our food is good, but do other people know our food is good? And it's also, even though it's our ethnic food that we're used to, it's very interesting to other people. So, and it's not just about the food, it's about the culture and the traditions attached to that. So, and then also, with historical and recreational outdoor opportunities, how do we broaden strategies? How do we take a more regional approach? I mean, we do have wonderful historic attractions. We do have great recreational assets. But as a collective, if you look at Dartmouth, Westport, even toward Newport, I mean, if you can market that in a larger sense, with, how do we kind of piggyback on some of that and create this much more regional approach that will also benefit Fall River. So kind of broadening our strategies there. And then I think one of the big things we realized when we were trying to collect data is, unfortunately, a lot of the locations in Fall River where people do visit from outside weren't really collecting data. And if they were, it wasn't collecting the types of things that we needed and in a consistent manner. So working with people to try to improve measurement tactics, which is super important. So while this research was being conducted, because I obviously did not conduct that, so I needed to be busy and do something else. So we were busy redesigning Viva Fall River's website and branding to more closely mirror the city's new branding, which was lovely, and present content. And we had to just kind of take a different look at the content, and we revised our content strategy to be extremely visitor-focused on engagement and education. So educating them about the city and giving them the enticement to come and engage. We wanted it to look more like a tourism website, and I think some of the ones I looked at were like Destination Salem, See Plymouth. I mean, some of these have a lot of the same attributes that we have, and they've done it really well. So I looked to them for inspiration, not only on the aesthetic, but also navigation content. The website was also refocused on 3 key visitor segments to better organize the content, but I also realized that Fall River can't be sold as just like, come to Fall River. You come to Fall River for very specific, there's different reasons. So food, history, recreation. So we decided to really create these distinct sections. So we have food and beverage, culinary, organized by type of food, attractions, which includes both historical and cultural attractions, and recreation, which is specifically outdoor recreation. We also worked on literature that we could distribute regionally using a company that puts them in visitor hubs, but also to go to trade shows. We worked with Southeastern Massachusetts Visitors Bureau. We went to the Big E, which was really fun this year. So you'll see in the back and around here, there's an actual general brochure, and then we have 3 rack cards that can either be standalone or they can go with the brochure, and each rack card focuses on the corresponding online section, so food, history, or attractions, and recreation. And then all the while, we continued to adapt and grow our social media presence. We had to take a different look, at what kind of content that we were posting, I mean, we still have a deep commitment to the community, and we still very much so promote the events that are going on here. We want to educate people to get out and explore their own city. It's not just about getting people from the outside, it's getting people who live here to enjoy it and tell other people. But so we do have our content calendar, but a lot of what we do on social media is crafting a positive narrative about the city so that you know that when you go to Viva Fall River, it's going to be good things about Fall River, and that's to combat anything else that you might see, which you shouldn't be following them anyway. And then we continue our weekly newsletter, which is Viva News. Viva News is very much for the community. It's very heavy on community events, but we added this year Viva Visit, which is our quarterly tourism newsletter, which is primarily our list that we were able to get through a promotion we did last year, people who are the typical traveler past 50 miles outside of the city. So as I mentioned, we created areas of focus so that we could develop specific campaigns, specific creative, and also wording. So for culinary, my line is authentic, affordable, and diverse. The second one is definitely one that we need these days too, affordable. Historical, we have such a rich heritage here, and not only that, the places that we do have for people to come are really engaging experiences. They are really good at doing what they do and making their visitors feel like they have gone back to another time. So we need to really, how do we package those, and how do we get people to not just go to one stop, but to go to multiple ones? And then recreation, our unexpected hidden gems. So I'm going to culinary tourism. This is my favorite one to do, always. And it's definitely not a hard job to do. So I believe strongly that food is a common denominator, and it creates connection, and it's also an effective vehicle for interweaving cultural storytelling. It's also fun and delicious, as I mentioned, but Fall River is incredibly diverse in its food selection, and it's often underrated. And so I definitely, this is definitely one of the things I say, that you can eat around the world and you don't even need a passport here. And so as culinary adventures are also rooted in cultural experiences, when I tell the story of food, it also provides me with an opportunity to provide some insight into the different cultural groups that make up Fall River's community. And so we've developed self-guided and guided tour options that kind of break down the barrier of, oh, I don't know about that food, or I don't know about that culture. And we use food as a vehicle to get people to kind of see that it's common, that your culture and my culture are very similar. We all, when I did the meat pie tour, we all have a meat pie. So that's kind of the unifying factor. And we're also just a dining destination that offers an exceptional value for the money. These are just some of the examples of things that we've done over the last couple years. The Fall River Meat Pie Tour, which started it all. We still add places every time. We just added about 3 new places, and all Latin American restaurants. That's on the right there. That's coming up. We just completed a video series of Latin American restaurants. When it's all is said and done, there will be 19 restaurants and grocery markets in the city, Latin American restaurants, so that we can start to get people, and they're all in Spanish, which is what we wanted. We wanted them to be in Spanish with English subtitles, because we want to start getting visitors from outside of the city who are not only interested in the culture, but also identify with that culture. We've had that foodies picture there is a custom itinerary that we have as part of our Take 5 off 195. Our campaign that we did for the last 2 years. Then there's the Taste of Portugal tour, which is a guided tour that we do with New Bedford Food Tours. It's 3 hours, 1.5 miles on Columbia Street, and even though I thought I knew everything there was to know about being Azorean, and Chrisanne's shaking her head because it was amazing. It really was, because you not only get to taste all this amazing food, and you not only learn about the Azorean culture, but what the Azoreans who came here, how they helped to form what Fall River is. And so it really is, it's their story too, and it's really amazing. And it's also helped to create a sense of community amongst the restaurants there, so kind of a win-win everywhere. Then we've got Fall River Restaurant Week, which is gonna be in its 3rd year. It's coming on March 15th, really excited about that. We also like to we also have a very competitive streak in this area. So last year did the Pastéis de Nata Throwdown, which is our wonderful Portuguese pastries, and that was primarily New Bedford Fall River. New Bedford did win, but we also had a winner in Fall River, and we were all winners really at the end of the day. We've also, what we're doing next month is South Coast Snack Down. So we tried to make it a little bit more inclusive, but at the end, sad to say, even though we included all the South Coast cities, it still came down to New Bedford and Fall River and one bakery in Fairhaven that makes their own sweetbread. So it's a sweetbread competition. Everybody get your stretchy pants out next month because, so this one, we're doing the same thing. And it's so great because people get to, the whole idea is to get people to stop being like, that's my bakery, that's my bakery. Go to another city, try new things, like check it out. And we did really well with it last year, and it's fun. And then the ice cream tour, which was just a blast in general. And we made that into a little promotion, like it was like a bingo. So we're always trying to do fun things. Just really quickly, the historical sites. I mean, we have some incredible historical sites here, especially if you're into military history. Not only, like I had mentioned, not only are they high-quality establishments, but they really offer the visitors a really, something that you can't get if you go to a big space. You're not just one of a big tour group. You really get the real experience. We also, we have our Portuguese festivals, but Ashley and I are both trying to work on how do we get some of the other groups in the city, like the Cambodians, the Ecuadorians, the Brazilians, how do we foster their, cultural festivals? How do we really truly show the cultural diversity that we have here in the city? And then, of course, our public art, which has been such a joy to see. Such a joy as I'm showing my hands. It's been wonderful to see them popping up around the city and people engaging with it. And so, we are also looking at how we can develop a public art tour, self-guided, of course. Some of the ways that we've worked on that, again, customized itineraries as part of Take 5 off 195. So we have one for history buffs, one for families. Of course, you cannot forget about the families. We have a wonderful children's museum here. We have parks and playgrounds, Olmsted parks. So these are all things that we try to weave in. We've also done a lot of work on our website. How do we highlight cultural organizations that you can visit? And then Ashley and I were privileged to work with Serpid over the last year on an arts and culture focused piece. So it's a brochure that shows the public art sites and talks about cultural organizations, but it's also a map. It's a large scale map. So we just finished that, and we're really pleased with how it came out. And then the last one, our last focus area is recreational tourism, which may seem surprising to you, but it shouldn't be, considering that Fall River is basically 50% water and 50% land. We are truly a unique combination of picturesque urban spaces and untouched natural beauty. So for me, outdoor enthusiasts, if you can spend $6,000 or something on a Trex bike, those are the types of travelers I want in Fall River. So we have, we definitely want people who have, who will come here, and we have such a diversity: boating, fishing, birding, biking, sailing, even kite flying. And even though that was more of a community event, it was still, we were able to make inroads with the Newport Kite Festival. So just trying to show all these beautiful spaces that we have and how they can be activated. So that was literally one of my favorite events I've ever done in Fall River. And I think also what I try to remember, or what I try to tell people is, I'm not only trying to get people from the outside to enjoy recreation, but to really provide equitable access for our residents. How can we give them more access to some of these things? So the Norton City Pier was someplace last year that we did a lot of community events, and the kite night was by far the most attended, but it was really beautiful to see families out there flying kites together, just enjoying our waterfront. So more of that to come. Some examples here, Explore New England. Next Wednesday, we will be doing a screening here of a 30-minute television episode. I was able to work with Explore New England on filming an episode, 30-minute episode, all about Fall River's diverse recreation opportunities. I'm thrilled at how the episode came out. You can watch it on YouTube, but it's so much more fun when you come and you watch it together. So we're gonna be doing a screening, but we're also gonna have a really informal panel discussion. I'm trying to get people from state agencies, some people that we work with, the trustees, the Audubons, and also the public, to come and talk about what recreational opportunities exist here in Fall River. How can we work better together? We have to start the conversation somewhere. I'm not expecting all the answers to come next Wednesday, but I do want to at least start this dialogue about how we can be better about, bringing our recreational opportunities to the forefront. Then we also had, last summer, we added a 6th itinerary to the Take 5 off 195, and that one's just about recreation, and we just redesigned the recreation page. So we're adding a lot of blog content, working with some local outdoor enthusiasts so that they can write blog content, because I know I look like it, but I'm not an outdoors person. And so just like hiking, when we were even working with somebody who's going to do walking trails in the city. And that's what's good too, is that we're not just talking about getting them out into the bioreserve. You can do a nice walking tour throughout the city and see many, many things and stop at many businesses. So kind of how do we put those two things together? And so, yep, as I talked about it a couple times, just thought I'd show, because I am so proud of that billboard. That was an achievement unlocked for sure. So actually, Take 5 started before I even started doing tourism with the city. It was actually from a grant from MOTT, actually, that made that possible. A grant from MOTT with some support from the Southeastern Massachusetts Visitors Bureau. It consisted of, at the time, 5 itineraries. We added one last year. They all have videos, and the idea was for people on the way to the Cape to take a break. Take a break, get off 195, come to Fall River, spend a couple hours, and then get back on your way, and then maybe come back and see us on your way back. So we did a lot of online content, Google Ads, social media campaign, and of course that amazing billboard in Providence, which was definitely fun to do. We also do a lot of events and collaborations. As I mentioned, we do have the #1 calendar for events in Fall River. There, not only do we accept community submissions, I also have somebody who works for me who just scours the internet for Fall River events. Our goal is to get everyone that we can so that people always know there is something to do every single night in Fall River. I challenge you to find a night that there is not something to do. We also work really closely with the Fabric Arts Festival. I've been working with them since before Viva was even a thing. That was even a thing. It's just become such an amazing event that I'm so proud to work on, and Ashley works as well with them to make sure that, it's become regional now. They do programming in Providence and in New Bedford, but really to make sure that the Fall River portion of the programming really is true to our community. And then we did a couple of things, Third Fridays at the Gates, Norton City Pier events, and just trying to highlight what those events were mostly to highlight local makers, local artists, lots of performances. We just really wanted to bring some things to the city that hadn't been brought before, always trying new things. And then last but not least, I think one of the things that this ARPA grant has allowed is for us to be able to do a ton of work, and how do we push out this positive message in Fall River to a lot of different places and a lot of different mediums that we haven't been able to do before. So yes, in the bottom left there we were on the commuter rail. It's super fun to see Fall River food advertising or Fall River advertising at Boston South Station. So we will be doing that again, but we've done it all. The first year we tried just a little bit of everything because we just really didn't have a baseline, and I'm a big believer, let's try it and see what happens. And so we did local, regional, national print. We've done USA Today. We actually just recently did something for Nat Geo UK, their US edition. Digital geo-targeting, Google Ads, you name it, we've done it. But obviously, through those metrics, we have seen from year one what worked. We had varying degrees of success with all of these, but now we know what works and where our markets are. And so year two, we've made a lot more informed decisions and focused on certain mediums to get us through the rest of year two. And what's next? So I'm thrilled to say that probably, I would say summer, let's say summer, we will have a pilot year for a new city sites shuttle is what I'm possibly calling it. I don't want to call it a trolley, but I know, let's call it a trolley. But that was also, the city was able to get a grant again from MOTT, so thank you. And so we've been working through some routes and working through some of the logistics, but this is super exciting. I think it's going to allow not only visitors to navigate the city in a more friendly way, but also for residents as well. There's a lot, I'm always a big fan of the staycation. How do you make where you live to be surprising? Also in tandem with that, wayfinding. So obviously all the stops will have signs. And then we're creating self-guided audio tours so that anywhere you go, you'll be able to scan a QR code or go to our website and have kind of like a pocket tour guide to take you around and to tell you about the area and the sites in that area. So we're working on that. We also have a ton of expanded content. We're adding blogs every day, blogs about food, blogs about recreation. It's just constantly trying to make sure that we are keeping people on the website and reading more about Fall River and linking to content. We are also doing a lot of pitching of stories, because if you want people to write stories about you, you have to let them know what you're doing. So we've been pitching to a lot of outlets, national outlets and regional outlets, to try to get some good stories about Fall River. And we've actually had a couple hits on recreation recently, so we're excited about that. And there will be a new summer campaign this year. I'm not sure what form it's going to take, but instead of Take 5 off 195, it's going to be See More off 24. So as you can see, these are the types of things I do with my time. And that's it. I will say that, thank you. I will say that first and foremost for coming. But also, I lived in Fall River. I grew up in Fall River, but I moved away for about 17 years. And it was always my hope that I would be able to come back and do something for my city. So doing this job, having the opportunity to take, to do some of the experience that I've had and work on tourism has really been like the opportunity of a lifetime. So I appreciate it, and I hope that you all learned something tonight. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Patty. And honestly, you don't need an introduction. I mean, you don't need one anyway. So again, my name is Ashley Okino. I'm the Executive Director of FRACC. And so what I wanted to talk a little bit about today is what FRACC has been up to and what members of the coalition have been up to. So our coalition is comprised of about 170, it's 170 individuals, businesses, organizations, government. It's a little bit of everything, and you can see that also by who is here tonight in attendance. We have Patty had mentioned it briefly on her slide, we have a creative economy plan. Our creative economy plan launched in 2021. And within that plan, I have 6 goals and 27 strategies that have been implemented over the past 2 years. And I'm happy to say we've gotten through a lot of them, and it's actually probably time to redo that plan again. But when people ask, and I often say in a cheeky kind of way, like, what is FRACC? Like, what is FRACC? What the FRACC? FRACC, at the end of the day, is an advocate, an asset, and a resource. And by advocate, we mentioned Mass Creatives here tonight, and I'm thrilled that they are. I believe that advocacy is a big role that we all play. Everyone is an advocate. It does not take much to be one. Really, it does not. You can just write a letter. You can just share a post online. You're doing it. And so some of the ways that FRACC has been doing advocacy work is through, not only will I be at the State House next Wednesday, so I hope I see all of you there, but also speaking about different bills that have come up or different types of legislation, including the Downtown Vitality Act. That's a big one where it will put online sales, nope, that's not the yes, it will put online sales back into the hands of organizations and creatives so they can best spend the money to reach the audiences that they know how to communicate with and audiences that they want to reach. Another one that we've talked about at the FRACC and that we've been advocating for is the Cultural Equity and Tourism Grant. And again, it's about getting money into the hands of the organizations that best know how to tell their stories. And so what we have been doing is within those city goals and within our advocacy work, we are connecting to wider goals across the city. As Patty mentioned, it's about collaboration. It's about really utilizing the research and the studies that have been done and using them to our advantage as we've moved through our cultural plan. And so there I am with some of our friends from Mass Creative and also the Metropolitan Area Planning Council and our friends at NEFA, the New England Foundation for the Arts. Those are 2 organizations that FRACC has been interacting with pretty frequently on a variety of different topics. And last year we actually received a grant from NEFA for their Spatial Justice for Collective Imagining for Spatial Justice. There we go. And so what we have also been doing is regranting. So FRACC is part of our economic development approach. We have been regranting funds out to individuals and organizations in the community. We have been providing professional development, most recently with Bristol Community College, and also public art and events. We mentioned events. Some of the events that I want to highlight is Open Studios. That has happened the last few years as part of FRACC's Art Festival. But we've also had, I would say they're the community events, but people from 50 miles come to these community events, and that includes We Heart Fall River and Thanksmas, which we have seen thousands of people come out and enjoy. And those two particular events that are hosted every May and Thanksgiving is an opportunity for FRACC to engage both creatives, makers are there, and performers are there. There's live music happening, and everyone that is there is paid, and that is the most important part. And so we continue to collaborate with the city and with partners. Patty mentioned some of the events that happened down at the pier. But one of the other things that has happened is the summer evenings in the park. And so that is a more community-based event, but it is such an important community-based event. It's led by the Narrows, and it has a lot of partners involved, including Viva Fall River and Recreation. And for 8 weeks during the summer, we go to 8 different parks. And during that time, we provide art, there's music, there are free groceries to take home, and the grill is always going with hot dogs and hamburgers, and the ice cream truck is there too. And this last summer, we saw over 3,000 people come out to those 8 events that were hosted. So it is, as we talk about open studios and we talk about local events, it really is this wonderful melding of people coming together in green spaces and in public spaces across the city. So some of the things that I've highlighted on here, you can see actually we're in the building we're in right now, and that is from the opening of FRACC's exhibition here inside the space. And I had mentioned regranting as well, and so our regranting has also allowed for performances, for art to be made, and including public art as well. And so speaking of public art, FRACC has been very busy with public art. And not only has FRACC been busy with public art, but the city in general has been busy with public art. And it is something that I think some of our oldest pieces in the city are about 80 years old, sculpture-wise, so it's not anything new to the city. But I have to give credit where it's due to both YACOR and to the Fabric Arts Festival. They really got it going in a way that was very visible in the city, and I'm happy to continue moving that forward. So I have an example up here of projects that FRACC specifically funded and helped manage. Down at the bottom, we have a Olmsted mural at Kennedy Park that's been done by the Fall River Arts Project. They're finishing up that mural right now. That was something that they had a variety of sources of funding, but FRACC was very happy to be involved in that project. Up at the top is our most recent mural, Dad's Home, which, thank you, Rep. Viola, that was done through a state earmark. And we also have a Blue Cross Blue Shield fitness court in Britland Park. And there is the artist, Fall River resident, Abigail Collins, receiving her check for her beautiful mural that was installed on the fitness court. And Abigail will always have the title of having the first call for artist work on a Massachusetts fitness court. These courts are all over the place, but she was the first person, Fall River was the first one to do a call for artists. So there's more now, but she will always be the first, and I want to make sure she always gets acknowledged for that. And I also have some of our work that Viva and FRACC and the Fall River Public Schools did last year with 3 big murals when we collaborated with Beyond Walls. So there's a lot of variety of mural projects that have happened across the city, but one of the things that I really want to point out is that they're not just murals. These all have deeper stories attached to them. They have deeper experiences. For example, the mural Dad's Home that I mentioned up at the top, there was a whole apprentice program attached to that mural project as well. So we had 6 apprentices who worked with the 2 professional artists. From day one when they showed up, they got their lift certification, and now they feel confident, they feel empowered to go forward and do some mural work on their own. And I'm happy to say that since that project's finished, some of them have gotten jobs from that as well. So it's more than just the murals. And same thing with the beautiful smiling face coming out of the water. That is Juliana, a student who was at Doran School at the time when the mural was done. And that mural project had a whole virtual pen pal exchange with students in Tarabamba, Colombia. So students from Fall River and Columbia got together virtually over a 2-week period, and they talked about what they had in common, and it's water. Shared water. So that video, you can find all of this on FRACC's website. I do, of course, go visit our website. So coming up in 2024, later on this year, is continuing public art. And so I'm very proud of Fall River. We are one of 25 cities from across Canada, Mexico, and the United States out of 200 applications that has been selected for a Bloomberg Philanthropies grant. And this grant specifically is for their Asphalt Art Initiative, which is to put murals on the ground to increase pedestrian and bicycle and traffic safety for everyone. So I'm very thrilled. The mayor's office, I have to give a huge shout out. They've been very supportive of arts and culture in the city, and especially to be able to do an application like this. So it is a huge pride for not just Fall River, but really for the region. We are the first ones to have this. And that mural will be going down in September. And it will be at the intersection of Bradford and Broadway, which I've shown on the map. And that's where, that's the road that runs right through the middle of Kennedy Park. And so what we'll be doing between now and the mural happening is we'll be doing community surveys. We're interested to hear people's input. So through the mayor's office and through FRACC, there will be some surveying happening. And of course, there'll be lots of events that we know always happen at Kennedy Park. So it will definitely be a place for celebration. And I did include an image of artwork by the artist who we are working with for this project. So Lena McCarthy is a Massachusetts-based artist. She actually has family here in Fall River, and so she's very thrilled to come back to the city and to do a mural for us. And so I've shown an example of one that she did last year in Kendall Square. And so what else has FRACC been doing? Some of the other ways that we've been working to elevate the community. I had mentioned our events that we have. We have students from Durfee High School there, and we also have our after-school program. We had received ARPA money from the city to start a pilot program that would last 2 years, and that is the South Coast Creative Arts Lab. And we say South Coast because we want it to eventually be big, and we want more to be involved with it. And it's a unique program that combines yoga, art, and music, and it is really takes a holistic approach. Transportation is provided both ways, both from the school to the program and from the program back home. Healthy and student-chosen snacks, because I have to say that, because sometimes there's Cheetos there. I mean, there is fruit and veggies, but you have to have some fun stuff too. So not only are snacks provided in yoga and their chosen track of whether art or music, but thanks to the Greater Fall River Food Pantry, every student goes home with a bag of groceries each week as well. We do recognize that as we work with the community that there is need, and the need is great, and it is vast. And so as we are able to provide substance through either our after-school program or through summer evenings in the park, or even through our regranting program. Our regranting program that we did last year, there was actually a stipulation that all of it could not be spent on the project, and that some of it had to stay for them to spend on life expenses. And so also the ignition space, and so that's definitely one that we want to highlight. So here we are in the new ignition space that opened officially in October, and this space has been designed to remove barriers and provide access for the creative community. And so as FRACC handed out its first round of grants, we found that folks who did not have either a studio or a place that they called home for their creative practice, that when we were asking them to do a placemaking project, they were running into issues. So by providing this space, we will now not only be able to provide a location for folks that FRACC is granting money to, but also to the public as well. So when we launched the ignition space, we put out a request for proposals to the community. And so the artists that you see on the walls here today were some of the folks that responded to that request, and we have many more coming up after that. But I am thrilled to be able to support people, to have families come in and to see the mini celebrations that happen every single time we have an event here at the Ignition Space. But it's not just about having the exhibitions here. Patty had mentioned Serpid. And we recently hosted a networking event here for them as well, which brought administrators from different municipalities from all across the South Coast or Southeastern region together. So one of the other things is we've got good press too. We've got good press too. Generally Fall River has really, as we talk about tonight, elevating Fall River, it really is, I want to make sure I get it very clear. It's not just FRACC and it's not just Viva, it's what we are all doing. And so some of the press that I just wanted to highlight was a really wonderful article by Harvard Magazine that talked to a variety of folks from across the city, lots of different voices in that article. The exhibition I mentioned when we first opened here got some great press from the Boston Globe as well. And our mural work with Beyond Walls was featured on Chronicle. Some of the regional work that we do is Art Week South Coast. So Art Week, when it existed out of the Bosch Center, had gone away. It's been back. It's been on the South Coast happening for a few years now. And so it is a regional effort that goes across from Fall River to Wareham. So 8 cities and towns participate. And we have well over 100 events that we put into our calendar every year between those 8. And last year, Patty and myself took the lead on the administrative side of Art Week South Coast, and shout out to our friends in New Bedford. They're taking the lead this year. And again, it's a regional effort. We get together as a committee and talk about elevating all of us in what we're doing. So I had mentioned the South Coast Creative Arts Lab was our after-school program. I have Senator Rodrick's there at Open Studios. We love when they come and visit. But all of this promotion that goes behind it does have things that does have attachments to it. So for example, you see a few different logos on there. The Southeastern Mass Visitors Bureau has been a great supporter of our regional efforts like Art Week South Coast. We have also really tried to work with other organizations to elevate those, so how do I want to say this? That's not the best way to say it. So within the city, there are so many creatives, and they just need outlets to sell their wares and to show others what they are doing. So 2 of those that I want to make sure that I highlighted were the Viva Maker Shop and Crafty-ish. They, between the 2 of them, probably have 200 different makers that are doing everything from earrings to soap to mugs to anything in between. It's like my favorite places to do all of my shopping. And I know that when I handed out gifts for the holiday this year, I got a lot of, where did you get this from? And I said, you have to come to Fall River. You need to come to Fall River and shop with local creatives. But between the re-granting, the professional development, the public art, and the after-school program, since it's been 2 years now since I've been with FRACC, and we've made an investment of over $530,000 into the community, which is quite a bit. And so just to kind of give you an idea of how that breaks down, by the end of this year, we will have re-granted $82,000 to individuals. We will have provided $50,000 worth of professional development. Our youth after school program, over $205,000 investment in youth programming, and over $200,000 in public art. So this is economic development, and from my standpoint, economic development starts when there is a catalyst behind it. And so FRACC really has been a catalyst for all sorts of things happening in the city, but I think the thing that I'm really most proud of is our impact on both individuals and on organizations. It can be a little anecdotal, and I think a lot of times when we're in our daily routine, we kind of just are going through, oh, what's the next email, and what's the next project, and what's the next this and that. But at the end of the day, it is important to recognize that FRACC's collective efforts and that $530 investment does make a difference in the city, and it does make a difference in people's lives. And so one of the quotes that's on here that I want to make sure that I acknowledge is together with the support of the South Coast Community Foundation, New Bedford Creative and FRACC worked on a business of art feasibility study. And through that feasibility study, we worked with a core group of creatives from each city, and they went out and interviewed more creatives. So with over 30 interviews collected and with listening sessions and working group sessions, we came together with a real, I would say, robust study that helped us see some weak points, but it also helped show our strengths as well. And so one of the quotes that's on here that I want to recognize is that this study did not sit on a shelf. From the moment it was done, Coalition members had their hands right on it, and they said, how can I utilize this study to recognize my dream of something that I've been wanting to do for a while? And so shout out to the SoCo Art Labs. They have utilized our Business of Art study to open up that space. And I'm excited to see what else happens inside that location. 3,000 square feet is pretty big. Some of the other work that we've done, Patty mentioned working with Serpid, but it's not just about working with Serpid on the maps and of resources of both nonprofits and public art, but FRACC also serves, and Patty, you should say this too, on their regional Economic Strategy Committee. Wow. So we're outside of just here, we are part of a larger collective with this committee, and again, working with administrators in municipalities from across the South Coast region. Another way that FRACC is working to elevate, and Michael, I think you'll appreciate this, is we are a member of the Massachusetts Artist Service Practitioner Coalition. So in short, what does that mean? It means we're working to more effectively advance participating statewide services. So it is Assets for Artists, New Bedford Creative, the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod, Dan Blask from MCC, Mass Creative, NEFA, the Boston Mayor's Office, Midday Movement Series, Arts Boston, the list goes on and on. But the point is that FRACC is involved in conversations not just with the southeastern region, but across the state as well. So with this practitioner coalition, really our goal is to be effective. What kind of professional development are you offering? Like, what are these resources that you are sharing? And as we communicate more frequently with each other and more openly with each other, we believe that we'll better use all of our resources and time. And I'm looking forward to really digging into it with them. It's a newer, you're looking at me like, oh, I haven't heard this. It's a newer coalition. It's a newer coalition that exists, but it's such an important one, as we recognize, and as a lot of us have utilized either ARPA funds or other grant funds to do programming to elevate our creative sector. We realize that there has been duplication, so we don't want to do that. But at the same time, we want to continue to find new resources and new opportunities as well, and that's how it can happen with these conversations. So Fall River, we have so much wonderful things happening in the city, but there are a few highlights that I wanted to point out. I've talked a little bit about what FRACC has been doing, but I want to make sure I highlight other organizations in the city as well that are part of the coalition. So for example, I know they're here tonight, the Greater Fall River Art Association. They've been around for 67 years in the city, so they've been around for a while, and so hasn't their historic home. And so shout out to the Art Association. They recently received 2 preservation grants to upgrade their porch and to become ADA compliant. I would also like to acknowledge that they've formed a lot of new partnerships in the city as well, and this is where I see FRACC also being a resource for folks. We do have monthly FRACC meetings where folks come together, and it's always a nice kind of group, and we share what is happening with each of our organizations or ourselves individually, and a lot of connections, actually always connections are made at that meeting. Nobody walks out of that meeting without a connection. And so I know that the Art Association has really been working hard, and their education programs have been very busy, but they also have new partnerships with Little Theater of Fall River. And I also want to acknowledge FR our neighbors right here. And I'll make sure that when we finish up this evening, we have the doors open so you can get the last glimpse of their first show inside this space. So since opening inside the building here on Troy Street, they've had over 500 visitors from really all over the globe. I've put a few highlights up on the slide here, and I'll just read them in case you're in the back. We have Portland, Oregon, Lisbon, New Jersey, Brooklyn, Los Angeles, New Hampshire, Hawaii. So talk about folks coming from all corners of the globe. And congratulations, FR MoCA. That is very impressive. And it's also because they have been getting great press as well with Boston Globe, Boston Art Review, Herald News, Dissident Magazine. And FR MoCA's work goes beyond, and I encourage you, Brittany Harry is here tonight, their director. It goes far beyond what they have here on the walls exhibition-wise to really connect with them and hear a lot more about what they're doing. Another organization, the Fall River Arts Project, they have a great acronym, FRACC, which, I mean, FRACC is good, but FRAP is even better. And so congratulations, I'd mentioned their public art piece at Kennedy Park that they're finishing up, their Olmsted mural, but they're also working on restoration at Battleship Cove right now, and with Stevens' program, which is over towards the Swansea area, which works as a services and treatment for teen boys, and so they've been working with them as well. And so I appreciate, they had put on a Halloween parade a few years ago, and it will be back again hopefully this October. That's a fun one, and I know that that's one where, again, they put it out to the community for the opportunity to participate as well. And so one of the larger organizations in the city that I wanted to acknowledge, more than just their summer evenings in the park program that they do, but also just the attendance numbers that the Narrows brings into Fall River. So one of the things that they asked me to highlight for them was that their concert series had over 1 million in ticket sales. And so if I put that against the American for the Arts Impact Calculator, which we should all do, because we will know what the impact of those dollars is. And so I can tell you that that 1 million in ticket sales equated to about $100,000 received in local and state government through expenditures from the audience, whether it was taxes or some type of license or fee for food or whatever they paid for. So every time we think about what the investment is that putting on a concert does, there's a bigger investment on the back end of it. And so when we think about all these little small wins, and actually these aren't small wins, these are all big wins that some of these organizations that I've highlighted tonight have had, I really do just see the city really just elevating itself like right up into the clouds. It's been amazing. One of the things that we did not mention is that besides Viva being the #1 calendar and FRACC having a great website, is that Patty and I do a monthly TV show. Yes, we do. We do T-Viva. So every month, Patty and I are on T-Viva, and for 30 minutes, we talk about all the wonderful things that are happening in Fall River, and always we give a little bit of time for FRACC to talk specifically about what's happening in the cultural sector. There we are at the October. We don't look like that every time. That was the October episode. But again, it's really, I want to make sure that at the end of the day that my audience and that all of my supporters here realize that Fall River is on the rise. We are on the rise, and we are being recognized both in press, we're being recognized by funders, and we're being recognized by tourists and other organizations. Even last week when we had our opening reception here for Gretchen Rosado, Providence Water Fire. There was a lot of folks here, and they were taking note of what was happening in Fall River, and we want more to keep coming into the city and taking note about what's happening. This is a hip place. It is a cool place. We have awesome restaurants to go and eat at, and there's always something happening. The calendar probably has well over 300 events, so there's something literally happening every night. But I look forward to another exciting year for FRACC. We will be doing some additional grants that will be coming out in the next week or so to 6 artists that will be activating the Ignition space here. And as we look a little later into the year, we were lucky to receive Bristol County ARPA funding, and with those funds from Bristol County ARPA, we are working with Assets for Artists, which is an organization out of Mass-MoCA, to launch a whole building capacity program. And so that will involve re-granting as well. And then it will also involve an ambassador program and events, and there's so many things attached to it. But the exciting thing is that it's continuing, and it's important that it continues because our work is not done here. We have made great strides for the creative sector, but I feel that we have a long way to go still. And that's only going to happen if entities like FRACC can be able to make investments back into the community still. Whether it's through individuals or through organizations, and again, the professional development part being such a key piece of it. And so I look forward to, I see my partner, Kathleen from Grimshaw Gidowitz Gallery at Bristol Community College, and we'll be having classes here in February and March to start talking about professional development from the gallery side and from the audience side of it as well. So there's so many things happening, so many wonderful things happening, but I thank you so much for coming out tonight And if you had any questions for, I guess, any of us, right, we're all going to stick around and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. And again, enjoy the hot chocolate bar. Thank you, Choco Latte Cafe. And again, thank you so much for coming out this evening.